can watch this.
There you go.
Great. Now people can watch this on the web afterwards. And I think people will still be coming in, but let's go ahead and start the video. Oh, I should, before you start it, let me just say, well, this is one of our recent events. I guess it speaks for itself, but it was a lot of fun. And you'll see a lot of the people who are here in the audience. You'll see us on screen there.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here together to celebrate the union of this prosperous couple, Mr. J.P. Morgan Chase and Ms. Tarsands. Billionaires, politicians, and investors have all been invited to witness and rejoice in this marriage that is so beneficial to our fossil fuel lifestyles.
I am here to pledge to honor, love, and cherish my bankroller, Mr. J.P. Morgan Chase. And I pledge to keep the oil flowing no matter how hot it gets here on Earth.
My darling, I pledge to loan you, my beloved, as many billions as there are stars in the sky or shares in my portfolio or gallons of oil still left in the Kalamazoo River. Should anyone present know of any reason that this couple should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I object. I object to this unholy alliance. J.P. Morgan Chase, stop embracing tar sands. You should be turning towards wind and solar, not tar sands oil.
Thank you. We appreciate your feedback, and we will take your concerns to the department where our righteous indignation goes.
Chase and tar sands, say how you do.
I'm glad that's all over with.
I object. It's money from big banks like Chase that threatens all the human race.
Thank you. We heard you, and we will also take your concerns to the correct department.
No more drilling on sacred land. Hey, Chase, take a stand. No more drilling on sacred land. As an investor, I also object. This makes no sense. Renewable energy is now the cheapest form of energy worldwide. It is growing fast. It's led to consistent returns over the last decade, while the oil market has been crashing.
We should maybe listen to this.
Oil investors have lost money 8 out of the last 10 years. $14 trillion has already been committed to divestment. Chase, it seems like it might be time for you to get on board, huh?
What was that number again?
14 trillion with a T.
My darling silly spilly tar sands oil, we have indeed been through thick and thin together, and it's been a wonderful adventure loving you. But I think it's time to reconsider our relationship. That 14 trillion is really lodging in my mind. We should postpone this wedding and really reconsider our engagement. I love you.
So do your part. Come and sign up at the 350 Madison table if you'd like to get involved or get our emails.
Yes, I am a tar sands oil bride.
Yay!
Well, I didn't give that much introduction, but I hope you could sort of see that we were trying to highlight the unholy alliance between Chase Bank and tar sands. And we did that in front of Chase Bank, in front of the, the farmer's market, back when it was warm enough that there was a farmer's market. Let me now move on to, so those that weren't here earlier, welcome to our meeting. We've had our opening video. Let's move on to our next slide. Okay, now that we've formally started the meeting, we always encourage you to take a moment to take 2 deep breaths. Even though these cranes are flying through the air, perhaps put your feet on the ground. And a second deep breath as we reflect on the ties to this land that we do live on. I'd also like to make an acknowledgement that the Ho-Chunk people are the ones who have lived on this land for on these lands for centuries and continue to live here. And I want to share a little bit of Ho-Chunk history. In the beginning of the 19th century, the US government recognized the Ho-Chunk as a sovereign nation who had the right to 10.5 million acres of land. And US government signed treaties such as the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1817. But soon after, the US government changed its position. From 1825 to 1837, the Ho-Chunk were coerced into signing new treaties that forced them to cede their territories. And they were forced to relocate to reservations in Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, and Nebraska. But there are many Ho-Chunk back here today because they walked back to their homes in Wisconsin after forced relocations. And these acts of resilience demonstrate the Ho-Chunk Nation's powerful connection to their ancestral lands. Just taking a moment to acknowledge that we live on Ho-Chunk ancestral lands and that they're still here today. I'm now going to give you an overview of the rest of the evening. We've had our opening video. I hope I've warmly welcomed you all, and particular welcome to newcomers. We will have, at the very end, we'll have a chance for newcomers to meet with Nikki, our volunteer coordinator. Our main event, which we'll turn to shortly, is a panel discussion, the value of collaboration, how state and local governments fight climate change. And I'll let, in a moment, Susan will introduce our 3 speakers. And then we will have updates and announcements. I think we'll be ending early tonight. I mentioned many of us were out at Giving Tuesday, and so we'll have a shorter program tonight, but we will have optional breakouts. We'll have time for more Q&A with the speakers, and we will have breakouts with our Divest and Defund team, which is the team that, in collaboration with the Art Collective, staged the We Object ceremony. And our tar sands team, which, as Phyllis will tell you, is gearing up for a very important fight against Line 5. So with that, I think we can take down the slides and we'll be spotlighting Susan and the 3 panelists. Susan, do you want to introduce? Oh, and Susan is the co-lead of our Community Climate Solutions team, which helped put together this program.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What a great organizing group you are, Julia and company. So first of all, I'd like to say that all 3 of our panelists this evening are alumni of UW-Madison. So Jessica Price has been the City of Madison's Sustainability and Resilience Manager since August 9, 2021. So she's just been here a little while. She left a position with the Nature Conservancy, leading its New York renewable energy strategy, to return to Madison, where as I said earlier, she earned her advanced degrees. After some 30 years of experience helping businesses and residents adopt sustainable practices in the Dane County area, Kathy Kuntz spent a few months from November of 2019 through spring of 2020 as co-founder of the CCST, along with Kermit Hovey and me. And then we lost her. She's now the director of the Dane County's Office of Energy and Climate Change. But I just had to put that plug in, Kathy, because, you know, it's so important to us. And Maria Redmond has been directing the office, the Wisconsin Office of Sustainability and Clean Energy since January of 2020. And she brings to this role some 20 years of state government experience related to climate issues. So Governor Evers couldn't have found a better person to do that role. So I'm going to open this panel, and I thank each of you so much for bringing your different levels of experience with government in this amazing state of ours. I'm going to start out by asking each of you to briefly describe the ambit that you work in. What kind of power and influence does your position bring with it? And I'd like to start. I'd like to ask Jessica to start this off.
Well, first, thank you for the very warm welcome, Susan. I'm excited to be here, especially sitting on a panel with Kathy and Maria. It's new to the position that I'm in, so I'm really grateful to get a chance to talk with and to all of you. And so from the local government perspective, you know, I can talk about a couple of the advantages and limitations that we have to sort of what we do. At the local government level, it works in our advantage. We can be relatively nimble compared to the federal government or sometimes even the state government. And that means that we can work across our divisions. So we have climate work happening in many divisions and in many departments. We have a lot of control over our own impact. And so that helps me work with the other, with my fellow colleagues at the city to integrate climate resilience, climate mitigation efforts into a lot of the different work that we do. Mayor Rhodes Conway likes to say climate isn't everything. And so you can imagine that there's a climate benefit in thinking about all of the projects that we're working on. I also have a really great opportunity to partner with the mayor and our alders. So that's a really great way that we can advance climate policy. We also have a chance to partner with NGOs in higher education. And so we can work with others who are conducting research or pilot studies. We can work with our local utility to really sort of think about how we can play a role in answering and asking and answering questions that are really important to moving climate work forward. So we have a lot of partnerships that work with NGOs, a lot of partnerships that work with higher ed. And we can also work with our fellow local government leaders. So Kathy and I talk a lot. We talk with our other local government partners. It's really important for local governments to look across to their neighbors and other cities and towns across the country to find out what's working and to leverage our resources. One of our limitations as local government is often our budgets are constrained. There's a lot of work that we need to do and a lot of investments that we need to be made, and we're doing our best to budget in ways that allow us to pay for the improvements that we need, apply for federal funding to allow us to do those bigger projects that we need to be doing, work with the state to advance shared priorities. And that's where aligning around some important work that we all believe in is really, really important and can help us have that voice and that influence of local governments to really make regional differences. And the other thing that we can do as local governments is we can provide perspectives to higher levels of government. So we can provide that local perspective about what's working, what's not working, what resources we need, how programs can be structured to better meet those needs, both at the state and the federal level. So one of those examples is Mayor Rhodes Conway is part of the EPA's Local Government Advisory Committee, where we have an opportunity to provide recommendations to the Secretary about what are the needs that the EPA can help local governments meet. I mean, so that's just sort of some of the spheres of influence that local government has.
Whoa, that's wonderful. So how about we go up the geographic scale, Kathy? Or yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Susan, and thanks everybody for attending tonight. It's terrific to be here with Jessica and Maria. Maybe to build on what Jessica said, so I'm at Dane County. I'm in the Office of Energy and Climate Change. Our office is nested inside the county executive's office. And, you know, County Executive Parisi created our office to accelerate climate action countywide. Prior to the creation of our office, the county was already doing green things in its own operations, and as Jessica explained, that sphere where we have the most clear authority. For counties, the authority beyond our own operations is complicated. In Wisconsin, Under state statute, counties have authority only where others do not by statute have authority. So what practically that means is we don't have authority in cities and villages. We cannot mandate something happening across all of Dane County. We can do things in townships, and actually townships can opt out of those things. So it's like it's very complicated for us when you think about this in a kind of authority way. I think for the foundation of our office is really about influence and persuasion. No, the ways we can influence is very much in a collaborative way where, in the same way we made the climate action plan, we brought businesses and advocates together and created a consensus. That our path to this is really, how do we create a culture in Dane County that's one in which all parties are taking action on climate? And that's sort of where I think my biggest layer of influence is can I help create that culture? I'll just do a shout out. One of the ways we do that is with our Climate Champions program. And this year, one of our new climate champions as of this last weekend is 350 Madison, recognizing your efforts to engage local citizens at sort of all levels of government in climate action, which is incredibly important. But we need one of the most powerful tools I have, and there's a lot of research out there that tells us that this is really powerful, is if I hold up a community or a business as a leader, others will follow. I can tell you, we named Middleton as a climate champion in 2020, and most of the staff in Middleton put our climate champion decal in their email signatures. In May or June, a staffer in Sun Prairie said to me, it's kind of annoying. Every email you get from them, it says they're a climate champion. And I said, well, it would be a lot less annoying if you were a climate champion. I don't think then you would be annoyed. Well, Sun Prairie today is a climate champion. And there is this, like, everyone wants to be on the side of good in this. And I think, at the county, a big piece of our role in this kind of slightly bigger playing field is to really showcase who's leading so that others want to follow that leadership. And I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you. Over to you, Maria.
Okay,
Yeah.
I found the unmute. I guess the nice thing about going third is a lot of stuff is covered, but I think, so from the state perspective, our perspective is that everything happens on a local level, and communities know themselves best, and the community members, your infrastructure, how your community is made up. And so it's really important, and like the initiatives that the climate action plans, the sustainability plans, or even if you don't have a plan on the local level, that that the best. And so as a state and in my position, the way that I came into this is that I don't have to recreate the wheel. What I have to do is create alignment and connect the dots and get you the things that you need and be able to be a conduit between the resources, and both technical and funding, and connection to federal and connection to state, and ensure that that's funneling and that communication is going back and forth. And so really, I didn't come into this position, and when it was created via executive order, and we're asked to create and develop programs and policies that help mitigate and adapt to climate change and address climate change. But what I came in recognizing right away is that a lot of this work is already being done, right? And so how do we move the needle faster is really what the way that I've been looking at this. And so one is ensuring that there's active participation in decision making, and ensuring that those on the local level can actively participate and be a part of the decision points that affect them. And so some of those examples are building codes. We've talked about this, Susan. and ensuring that you get your voice in those processes and you understand how those processes work. Public Service Commission, I've seen a really amazing. I read all of the public input that is submitted to a lot of the dockets, and what I've seen is a large increase in local governments coming together with a united voice, saying, "Look, this is where we're coming from, and this is where we need the support," and encouraging that. And then once, like, I'm reading that, and I'm also working on a clean energy plan for the state. And so I recognize the power that we have as government agencies, both on the local level, or I say like the trifecta of government, right? Federal, local, and then the state. And what can we do from the government perspective? And I actually should also say, and this is not an afterthought, is tribal nations. And they're their own sovereign government. So they have the capability. We look at the power that we have within our own government-led efforts to be able to make change, and then sync that up with everyone and what we want to work on, and make sure that there's alignment and that we're all working together and not working against each other. As the federal government is pushing out more dollars, we want to see those dollars come to Wisconsin. And so that collaboration and that partnership and the strategies built around us working together and elevating all of the work that's being done puts us in a better position to apply for that funding or to direct that funding more efficiently. So there's a lot of collaboration and stakeholder engagement from my perspective, and I think that will continue on into the future. So that's kind of my perspective on it.
Thank you. And, I'd like to ask you to build on what Lisa just said about what you do in your own spheres. You've already begun to talk a lot about the important collaboration across all kinds of different entities. But I wonder if you could describe a particular problem or a situation that the three of you at the municipal, county, and state level have chosen to turn to one another for help to figure something out. Maybe, Kathy, would you like to start that off?
Sure. So I think one of the really good examples of this is that happens locally, but engages the state too in some ways, is our Sustainable Leaders Collaborative, where so this started about 3 years ago. It predates both Jessica and I at the city and county, but the Mayor Rhodes Conway and Executive Parisi came together and said, the city of Madison and Dane County have resources to figure out things around climate action that our smaller communities don't have resources to figure out. And we can work together on these things. And so a very practical example out of that is the city of Madison has really been a leader in terms of electrifying their fleet. We've now done a couple of fleet events where we bring fleet staff from around the county. So the fleet folks from Cottage Grove and Middleton and Verona together with Madison's electric vehicles, so people can kick tires and talk to other fleet people. And because it's really, you're not going to convince folks by having like Kathy say, you should buy electric vehicles for your police force. You're going to convince them by having a fleet mechanic say, these are great and the police love them. And, and so it's that really practical stuff. And I think exactly to Maria's point where we're on the verge, the cusp of all of these federal funds to help with EV infrastructure and to help with electric school buses. And it's critical at this moment that we're all talking to each other because we want our communities to be at the forefront of that. I had conversations over the weekend with a school district who is like, we've got to figure out how to do this school bus thing. I'm like, well, I know who else we need to talk to about that. And it's Maria, so it's that sort of very tangible, how do we figure this out thing that, Jessica said earlier, we talk often, it's probably a couple of times a week we're on calls together about one thing or another.
Great. Jessica, Maria, either of you have some ideas about how you interact that in ways that you accomplish things that you couldn't otherwise accomplish.
Would you like to go first, Maria?
I can, either way, it's fine. I'll just jump in. And I think, so as we're working through our planning processes, I can't make this stuff up. It is so important to have those conversations and to talk about what you need. I have had individual conversations with both Jessica and Kathy. I don't think we've been in the same space before except for this, but we're all communicating. And I think the major thing for me is that I'm also communicating with the federal government and telling them what we need. So if I don't have these conversations with folks on the local level telling me what they need, I have to make up and tell the feds what I think we need, right? So it's way more effective to our communities if I have these conversations and I know what they're looking for. So some of the things that have come out of the conversations that I've had is more technical assistance, more funding to be able to transition to clean energy or to support energy efficiency. I can take that message directly to the funders who are asking us, what do you need? How do you need this? How do you want to disperse these funds? And tell them exactly what we need for the state. And so the conversation is really important to be able to inform how we want to direct the technical assistance and the funding. And they're going to be, there's just over $78 million coming to the state for electric vehicle infrastructure. And so the state, we received a grant for $1 million through ARPA funding to help us plan from a infrastructure perspective and a supply chain perspective. And so as part of that planning effort, we're going to need to have conversations with as many local governments and municipalities as possible to be able to understand where the best locations are for that, for infrastructure. And then we'll be able to disperse those dollars a lot faster because we've planned. And so a lot, again, it just is, I think, just that communication and ensuring that that we're able to work together to take advantage of the opportunities that are ahead of us.
So Jessica, even though you've only been in this position, what now, 4 or 5 months, I guess just 4, do you have additional examples that you might add?
I'm so glad that Maria went first because it was right very much in line with the examples that I was going to provide. But as she said, really the local level is where a lot of where the money gets spent. Basically, it's where the work happens. And so one of the things that I've learned very, very quickly, which is fantastic, is talking with Maria, talking with other folks at the state level that are running different programs that touch down on climate across the state is a real willingness and curiosity and to listen to what the needs are, and in a collaborative spirit of other local governments to sort of use that voice to really think carefully about what do we need, who do we talk to, have that conversation. And it's been really, really refreshing, honestly, to come into those productive relationships. And the Office of Energy Innovation, Focus on Energy, Maria's office, those are all examples of like programs and departments that do the work of designing programs that those of us at the local level really rely on to resource the work that we're doing. And so, some of that work, we do work to, and I know that folks in other, local governments around Dane County are doing the same thing, but we do a lot of work to really think about how we can improve the sort of health and efficiency of affordable housing, both subsidized and naturally occurring affordable housing. And there are a lot of different state agencies where that work can get funded. And so, but we are also identifying what are the gaps, as we're doing that work, what does it look like when you start actually, peeling back the curtain and figuring out, what all needs to happen in a particular place to make that building work optimally and efficiently for the residents that live there. And so being able to have those conversations about what's working now and then what we might need has been really, that's just one example of how it can be really productive to work across and to work with different folks at different levels.
Oh, that's what.
Can I hop in? Do you mind if I hop in again?
Please.
I just wanted to point out that one of the charges of my office when I started was to serve as a hub for all of the agencies. When I talk to other states about the work that we're doing or the work that the office is doing and the collaboration that we have across the cabinet agencies, and when I come, they're like, oh, here comes Maria again, but it's a positive thing that we're all working together. And so for example, the EV infrastructure work, we meet on a monthly basis with a team that includes Department of Transportation, Department of Agriculture, Trade and Consumer Protection, Public Service Commission, Department of Natural Resources. I'm trying to remember who else, Department of Administration. So we have 5 or 6 different agencies just on that topic that are meeting and connecting, and so that we have a unified voice from agencies, and then we're not working against each other. And then when the local governments come to me or to anybody, we can direct them to the right contact and we can be efficient. And so when it comes to pretty much everything, I know, Susan, we've talked about building codes. I have direct work with the Department of Safety and Professional Services. And you know what, we're talking about EV readiness with them as well. So there's like all of these agencies engaged and a part of the discussion and ensuring that, they're not surprised by anything and they're ready to have the conversation. And so that's really my job, is to help make that happen. Sorry to jump in, but I just felt like it's important for you to know that, I'm trying to like move and shake over here and have these conversations and ensure that, that we've got as much excitement and engagement from the agencies as possible, so that we can truly be a good resource.
Kathy, did you want to jump in?
Yeah. Let me just build on that, because what Maria's doing there is incredibly important, because, we've got now across Wisconsin where Madison and Dane County are part of something that's called the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. 1 in 3 people in Wisconsin live in a community with ambitious clean energy goals. Okay, we're talking Green Bay, Eau Claire, La Crosse, Racine, Milwaukee, a variety of smaller places around those places. You've got 1 in 3 people, and local governments are where a lot of this gets done. But there are state policies that make it really hard for us to get some things done. And some of those are things that the administration can make a little better. And some of those are things that only the legislature can fix. And that's a different kind of challenge. But I think it's really important that we've got this ally in Maria, who, where agencies can make it better, they make it better for us. And the whole point of coming together as the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition was to be able to have conversations with the Public Service Commission and elsewhere about the challenges that as local governments we were seeing in policy and implementation of policy. And so that kind of interplay is super important in this. I think I'm aware that it can feel really frustrating to a citizen that, you read about a cool building program in Seattle and you think, well, why can't Madison do codes like that? And we say, well, that's a state thing. And it feels like we're shuffling you around when you're asking, why can't this? Some of you have said to me, why can't Dane County mandate this? I'm like, we can't mandate stuff. That's just not what we can do. It's why this interplay between us is so important, because some of these solutions can only come out of kind of creative, like piling of what I can do at the county to create momentum, and what Maria can help a state agency tweak policy to do. And, until we maybe can get, more things at the state level done legislatively.
You know, I was going to spend a little time asking you all what you would like folks who are in the room, who are at the really local level, because they're not in government at all, what you'd like to see from us. But I'm looking at the time, and I'm also looking at 3 or 4 really interesting questions that are showing up in the chat. So I think I'm going to switch over to a question that, how much time do I have now, Julia?
We have another 7 minutes or so.
Okay. I'd like to switch over to the question that Christina asked. How important is it to have elected officials that champion climate to support your roles? And are you independent enough at this point that it doesn't matter who is in office or is voting for sympathetic leadership, a key piece of enabling your work to move forward? Oh dear.
Happy to address that from a state level. I mean, I can start. Certainly having a champion at the state level has been super helpful. I know that, you know, our administration mentions that we went 8 years where we were not allowed to say climate change in any of the state work, where it was any reference to climate change on any state website was deleted, and we also weren't allowed to talk about it in meetings. And it was kind of a transition that, you know, science was back, and that we had climate discussions, and we had a governor's task force on climate change. So I do have to say that, like, that support is very important and helpful. But also, I've been working in the energy space for 20 years, and we've been working on this. And so I've worked across 5 administrations now, both Republican and Democrat, and we've been able to work on transitioning our energy over to clean energy. While it's a lot easier to do it when there's a champion and you can move the needle faster, that doesn't stop the work that we do when there isn't necessarily very supportive elected officials. So what I'm trying to do in my work is make the clean energy plan that I'm working on resilient to elected change. So recognizing that it's not just about climate change, it's about the economy, it's about the people, voting citizens, it's about our environment, it's about all of the above. And so you can speak to everyone about all of the above. Flooding, climate change impacts, even if you don't talk about them in the climate change perspective, affects everyone in some way, shape, or form. So that's how we talk about it. And that's how I think we get past it being an elected partisan issue and make it so that it becomes more resilient, and that we can continue to plan and continue to push and move the needle as best we can into perpetuity.
And Jessica or Kathy, do either of you want to add to that?
You know, I think Maria is stating a really important strategy for all of us as we think about our climate work, is to make sure that what we're doing is sustained over time. And so that's creating policies, creating programs, sustaining those, making sure there's a funding source for them, and speaking to the hearts and minds and the way people do things. Like, if you can make climate resilience just part of the way that things are done, that's our work. That's what we're really trying to do, is to make that a consideration. Just when someone in local government or state government or federal government says, well, how much is that going to cost? I would also like them to add, is this a good climate decision? If we could get everybody to be asking that question and making sure that that was part of their decision-making scheme or criteria, we would all be in a great place. But I don't want to de-emphasize the importance of people, you know, voting in people into office that are going to be making these decisions that are climate champions. We will always need climate champions, and that's how we are able to get our work done. You know, we will always be working. I think we're all career climate action people. We're always going to be doing this work. We're always going to be figuring out. You see, when leadership lags in one area, you see it picking up in another. But we really do, people, you know, just because you've got three awesome people, if I do say so myself, working really hard at multiple levels of government to make it happen. It doesn't stop with us. We really need folks to continue to identify and to vote in those climate champions at all levels of elected leadership.
Thank you. I'd like to, Kathy, unless you really want to jump in, I would like to move over to a question that Marianne Friedel from our climate justice team has asked, because it relates to what you were just saying, Jessica, about, and also Maria, about connecting to all people. One of the challenges that 350 Madison is facing, and that we're really trying to make sense of and make headway on, is getting more connected with frontline communities and BIPOC communities. And I'm wondering if we can use this opportunity to get your ideas about, have you seen any communities that are especially moving forward on this, or more successful than, for example, we are so far here in the Dane County, Madison area, in engaging folks who, don't have the time to think about sustainability, but they're feeling the impact so intensely. How do we get to engaging in a way that's meaningful to all those people, so that we're not just this group of largely white, academic trained, not necessarily academically trained, but largely white climate activists.
Talking to ourselves, yeah. It's funny, I was just talking with days ago, I was having coffee with Stacy Reese from Jessica's office, and we were both talking about Providence, Rhode Island had a really exemplary example of a climate action plan that came out of conversations with frontline communities. And the reality is, this is a slow process. It's about building trust and relationships, and then listening to what is important for the community. The thing that stuck with me reading Providence's plan is they talked about that everyone had the right to dignified housing. And I thought that was a really powerful way to put that, that that's about respect, and that everyone deserves. Locally here, Justice Castaneda, a local housing advocate, talks about how we all deserve a house we can fall in love in, whether that's in love with a book or a person or whatever, but we deserve a house where we can actually thrive. And I think, certainly at the county, we had big plans about how we were going to roll out the cap and start a lot of conversations with the community-based organizations we have ties to, and then the pandemic happened. And it's been such a survival time for a lot of our frontline communities. I do think we're coming to a place where people have more space to have these other conversations, and I know we're thinking about that. And again, as I said, Stacy and I had this conversation in the hallway because both of us see an advantage in having this conversation collaboratively, where we're thinking about how do we bring the organizations that the city has relationships with and the organizations the county has relationships with together into a big conversation, because this isn't our challenges in this area, which are affordable housing and transportation and food equity. They don't stop at the borders of a particular city or village or town. And so we've got to really think about this in a holistic, creative way, but it's not going to happen overnight. There's a long, complicated conversation here, and yeah, it's one where Mary and I wrote down your name because I was like, okay, I want to follow up with you and chat about what we're thinking about and how we collaborate, because I think more collaboration on this is better. Everyone has a few really good relationships with segments of these communities, and we need to collaborate so we really have a way to engage all of those communities.
Can I just say one thing or two things really quick? I noticed in my clean energy plan sessions, listening sessions, that we really lack diversity. And we have to be very intentional with our outreach when it comes to engaging communities. And what that means is we can't expect communities to come to us. We have to go to those communities. And as Kathy mentioned, the COVID kind of prevents us from like physically getting into communities. And so we have to make a very strong effort. And so just from my perspective, one thing that I'm doing actually in a couple of evenings is I'm hosting a focus group with specific communities, that environmental justice communities, to have a conversation with them, you know, a small group of maybe 5 to 10 that the Energy Foundation has helped me pull together, to have a more concentrated conversation about what this means, what the clean energy transition means to them. So again, we have to make, this has been in the works since my listening sessions ended in October, because you recognize where the gaps are and you have to fill those gaps in, and you have to be intentional. So it may take extra work, and it may take extra effort, but we have to take those steps, and to ensure that people know that they have a voice and how to express that voice. And sometimes that's one-on-one conversation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And Jessica, I don't want to, I'm being asked to bring this to a close and ask folks with additional questions to join the breakout. But I want to give you a chance to respond to this question about frontline communities before we move on to the next piece.
Yeah, I'll just briefly, lift up a couple of the things that Kathy and Maria said. And I've heard this said a lot, and it hasn't reached the level of meaningless yet, but it's one of those phrases that we hear, but change moves at the speed of trust. And we have to build trusting relationships. And so for folks that really are motivated by the climate crisis to really do climate action and do work, I urge you to think broadly about that definition and what that work looks like. You can be a fair housing advocate. You can be an advocate for access to healthy food and quality housing and eliminating health disparities. And all of that is climate work. And so really understanding that sometimes it's those basic needs and making sure that those basic needs are met in ways that provide dignity and respect and are done so that it enables folks to have decision-making power and to have their basic needs met in ways that are right for them. And that too is climate work. And so I just urge everybody to, listen to others and figure out how you can join in their work and really make those personal deep connections so that someone might ask you, well, hey, what are you passionate about? And what are you working on? And that's really how you form those really trusting relationships.
Thank you. Boy, we are very lucky to have the three of you working together in our state. And I'm afraid I'm going to have to bring this piece of the evening to a close because Julia Isaacs has asked me to close this off.
Yes, it's my job, but I also want to, can everyone just thank our speakers? Well, we'll hear from you again in 10 or 15 minutes, but we'd love to, for those that can't stay, thank you now. We just have a few team announcements and things, but I want to, John, could you say a little bit more about something over the weekend? We won some kind of climate award.
Definitely kind of, building off of what Kathy just said, we are really honored and excited by now having Dane County climate champion status. And what a wonderful coincidence. I swear we didn't set it up that Kathy could actually make that announcement because we really appreciate all of the work that Kathy and the county is doing, that's for sure. And it's really a great way, to build a community of organizations and businesses that are proactive on climate change. So we're really excited about, having that status and being able to really run with it and make sure it does good work. So I like a quote that I think is from Joe Parisi. The Climate Champions Program enables us to recognize and celebrate those achievements and hopefully inspire additional action by other entities around the county. And more specifically, in terms of 350 Madison, we received recognition for our efforts to collect, quote unquote, to connect local citizens with climate policymakers at the state, county, and municipal levels. So I feel like in part we're doing that here this evening. And then just finally, I do want to give a big shout out to Emily Parks for doing really the bulk of the work needed to gain this climate champion status, to get our application in. So yeah, I think it's a very exciting development. We're really pleased to be a part of the cohort. So thanks again.
Thank you, John. That happened so recently that we didn't even have a slide for it, but John, our executive director, could jump in and make that announcement. We have some exciting updates. I'm eager to hear from Stephanie about our big party on Tuesday, for Giving Tuesday. Stephanie, you want to give us the first update?
Yes, thanks so much. Well, I get to share some other good news, which is a lot of fun. For Giving Tuesday, we had a goal of fundraising $15,000 for climate action. And I'm delighted to share that we actually exceeded that goal and raised $18,000, which is phenomenal. And that success is definitely due to the incredible generosity of our community and puts us in a great position going into the year-end charitable giving season. So thank you so much, everyone. Our campaign culminated last Tuesday with a joyful celebration and gathering for 350 Madison's 10th anniversary at Garver Feed Mill, and I know that many of you were there. Our event was attended by 80 people, 10 of whom were attending virtually. It was our first attempt at a hybrid meeting, so that was pretty exciting. Our theme was "We're All In." That reflects the urgency of the crisis and our passion and commitment and hope that together we can achieve the change we need. And we celebrated also by unveiling our "We're All In" video, which I think we'll be sharing at another time. We recognized our amazing volunteers. We listened to inspiring presentations from our campaign team leaders. We enjoyed great company, music, chair massages, even food, and we had a special activist cocktail that Garver created for us. So it was a lot of fun. And we thought it might be fun tonight. If you were at the event and you wanted to share in the chat something that you found to be fun or something you enjoyed at the event, please let us know. I also wanted to mention that our campaign was supported by an online auction. We had over 140 items and 33 local businesses actually contributed gift cards and other goods. And it was really, really encouraging to see the commitment from our local businesses to supporting climate action. So it was without a doubt our biggest and best auction yet. Next slide. So definitely thank you is in order. We'd like to thank everyone who contributed to the campaign, whether that was through a gift, running a peer-to-peer campaign, donating an auction item, and just thank everyone who provided volunteer support either before or at the event. And I just wanted to finally acknowledge the hard work of our steering committee. They definitely deserve a round of applause and a special shout out. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Julia.
Thank you, Stephanie. And let me just, I'm going to confuse you. Can you take down the slides for a second? I just want to see who was at the event on Tuesday. If people can change their screen to gallery view, I don't know, wave if you were at, oh, you could do that, that thumbs up in the reactions thing if you were at the event on Tuesday. I think a lot of you were there. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. Virtual thumbs up. I know I'd fun with the auction last year, and so then I sort of overbid a little bit too much this year, but it is, I guess it's an annual event, I hope. Oh, Stephanie, I have somebody who wants to donate some art next year. So email me so I don't forget to tell you.
Fantastic. I will do that.
He may have told me last year too, and I may not have told you. Let's go back to the slides because Phyllis has not a celebratory, but a very important announcement about the tar sands in line 5.
Yes, we have big news. So the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources has confirmed that in the month of December, they hope to publish their long-awaited draft environmental impact statement for Enbridge's proposed Line 5 expansion in northern Wisconsin, and that there will be a 60-day public comment period. We don't know if the public hearing will be 30 or 60 days after the publication, but we do know that the public comment period will close 60 days after it. And after that is done, the DNR will study the feedback that they get from the public, and then they'll publish a final environmental impact statement. And then they will deliberate, or maybe they've already done that, I don't know. And finally, they will either grant or deny Enbridge permits for the project next. So here's what we need to do to stop this expansion, and by extension, all of Line 5, because if they can't go around the Bad River Reservation, and if the Bad River Band wins its lawsuit in federal court, throwing them off their land, then Enbridge's only hope is to get hundreds of miles of new easements through Wisconsin, and that won't be so easy. And meanwhile, Stop the Money Pipeline is campaigning to deny them the loans that they would need for that. So we need to make this such a big controversial topic that the Evers administration will take the highly unusual step of saying no to Enbridge. And as you can see from this list, we need a huge number of people in Wisconsin to get informed, to participate in the regulatory process, and to do more than that. The photo gives you an idea of the kind of creative actions that we have done and will continue to do to get attention and get in the way. Next. So how can you help? Here are some of the many ways we'll be making our goals a reality. Get ready to click on the links that will be dropped into the chat. And I don't think there's anybody here just on a phone, so I guess I don't have to read the tiny URLs. So next, here is the first link is to the Google form, which is in the chat, the Line 5 volunteer one. And if we have a couple minutes set aside for this, this is an action hour. So if you could go there right now, fill out the form as to which of the many things you could do, and we'll get in touch with you. And then time you can go to the second one. Yes?
We have to put it in without the period because it's not working for me. I'm trying to do that. I'll try that.
Where is there a period? tinyurl.com?
Anyways, I just put it in again because when I clicked on it, it didn't work. I mean, they're not live links somehow.
No, they're not live. Well, okay.
To paste them into your browser.
Yes. The second one is a petition. It's at the Sierra Club page, and you sign the petition to Biden asking him to stop Line 3. And then lastly, if you will attend our breakout group tonight, we'll have more details and also answering any questions you have about Line 5 and our efforts to stop it. Thank you so much. Our success depends on your participation.
So we will pause for a minute so that people can fill out this Google form. And if you use the second link, which doesn't have the period, it will work better.
Maybe I should be singing a song to entertain you. Okay.
And if it's hard for you to do Google Forms in the middle of a meeting, you can go to the breakout session with Phyllis and talk to her then and tell her in the comments what you want to do.
And you could also just save it where it opened and go back to it later and fill it out.
Yep. Yep.
All right then.
Okay, great. I think we have 3 more quick announcements. Starting off, Julia, you're going to tell us about the Girl Scouts? Or is this someone else from CCST who's making this announcement?
Well, it looks like Julia is not here. The Community Climate Solutions team has a monthly meeting. It will be on the 16th of this month at 5. And we're bringing it to the attention of the full 350 Madison community because a couple of groups of Girl Scouts have produced an extraordinary, I guess it's a video that's trying to tell members of the public and especially the construction industry that you can embody carbon in concrete instead of having straight concrete. And it's an extraordinary thing that these young people have done. So if you want to take a few minutes on, I guess it says Thursday at 5 p.m. and listen to these young girls, really they're out on the front line of climate change, and it's just going to be fun.
Next slide.
Oh, and if you want to go, you just have to write to, you can write to me at susan.millar@350madison.org to get the link.
Okay. Susan, do you want to say anything about this slide, or maybe Michael Friend could come on because he's with the Dane County Community Working Group to talk about the Dane
Well,
County
I don't know
Department of
whether
Waste and
Michael
Renewables.
has
He put something in the chat, so I think he'd be
well, Mike,
able to
Mike, do you want us to talk to this, or maybe Kathy could talk to this? I know a little bit about this. I do know that there is some concern among parts of the local population about the Dane County proposal to convert the eastern portion of the Har Hills Golf Course into a sustainability campus and landfill. Kathy, I think that you probably have better information about this than I do. I know that we should show up and support this. Garbage is not going to suddenly stop being produced. And we need to be doing the right thing with it, which is to start turning it into biogas rather than methane that escapes into the air. Over to you, Kathy.
Yeah, Susan, I think you said a lot of it. The Dane County's Waste and Renewables is one of the places where the county has been leading for a long time. So they've done a really good job of diverting, for example, construction waste from our landfill over the last decade. And they continue to reduce what goes into the landfill. But Susan's right, we're not going to stop having garbage tomorrow, and our landfill is running out of space. So the meeting tomorrow is really the first of many efforts by Waste and Renewables to have some outreach to talk about what they're thinking about relative to this sustainability campus forward, and to give people a chance to learn a little bit more about it. So I would encourage you to go. I think it will be a fun presentation and a lot of cool information.
Thank you.
Great. Next slide. And Mark, I think this is your announcement, unless CJ is on.
Yeah, I didn't. Is CJ on? I did not see her.
I don't.
So this is just I'm just presenting this on behalf of a group of students. This is a divestment day of action that they've planned. As many of you know, the UW-Madison Faculty Senate passed a divestment from fossil fuels resolution in the spring, as did the staff assembly. And the students are concerned that there hasn't been enough follow-up from the UW Foundation, so they're staging this event. And what's really impressive about it is the leadership is coming from all around the system campuses through a group called the UWDC, the University of Wisconsin Divestment Coalition. And locally, it's sponsored by a number of groups there you see at the bottom, including the AISM, the student government, different student orgs, and the Wisconsin Student Climate Action Coalition. And they are doing, some of it is on campus really for each other, students for students. But then there is a public part of the program from noon to 2 on Friday, December 10th, which you see there, the second from the bottom. And they very much are welcoming community supporters and allies from 350 and all other groups. So again, that will be Friday, December 10th, noon to 2. If you can come anytime between that block of time, it'll be held at the Wisconsin Alumni Association building, which is up at the top of Lake Street near the Union Terrace. And I think they're a little concerned that it's going to be quite cold, so they're going to do their best, but we'll, if we can show up in their support and solidarity, I think they would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And that was an example where there we both were at Giving Tuesday, and we got to talk to each other and network and find out about this. So it was good to see you on at Giving Tuesday. Next slide, Nikki.
Yes, so I would like to congratulate our volunteer of the month, Kathleen Fitzgibbon. Yay! I know she couldn't be here today, so she will get a recording of this, but I just wanted to let everybody know why Kathleen is the volunteer of the month. She just started in the summer of 2021. She hasn't been with us for very long, but since then has jumped into anything and everything. I believe she's on 3 or 4 teams at this point. She decided to jump into our peer-to-peer fundraising, Car Free for the Climate, despite not having any social media accounts. She just wanted to help. She has volunteered for various events. She's at the art team actions. She is all over the place and always willing to lend a hand. She decided to volunteer at Giving Tuesday as well. So she was there. Every in-person event that I have been to, Kathleen has also been to. And because of that, she's really just been a huge addition to 350 Madison. She's just jumped in so fully. So I just really want to take the time. Oh, and Phyllis mentioned, yes, she drove down to Chicago for the Fed action as well. She is so willing to do anything and everything to support the cause. So I just want to thank her again and really recognize all of that hard work and all of that willingness to jump into anything she's, comfortable or uncomfortable with, and just really bring her zeal to every team she's on.
Okay, and as we close out, Nikki, do you want to tell us what we're going to do in January?
Yes, so January is the time where people are making New Year's resolutions, and we wanted to make the monthly meeting a bit of a volunteer fair, both for newcomers who may potentially be thinking that this is the time I want to dedicate my volunteer hours to climate change work, but also for those who have been with us a long time, who can learn more about all of the different opportunities on different teams to get to know the organization even better. So please do invite people that you know who maybe aren't involved, because this will be a very exciting event where we get to hear from some volunteers from every team, get some breakouts with a bunch of different teams, and really be able to connect new people or have those who've been here for a while, learn even more about teams they may be not on. So look forward to that. And team leads, I have sent you some stuff, so we'll be getting that all planned and set to go.
Julia, you're muted.
Christina, did you want to do the poll before the breakouts? We have a quick poll to get feedback, and then we'll go to the breakouts.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for coming. This was a good meeting to come to. They're all good, but this was really excellent. Thank you, Susan, for organizing the panel. You should hopefully be able to see the poll questions. There's 3 questions, so it should hopefully be pretty quick.
Christina, I don't see the poll questions. Maybe other people do.
If you're a co-host, you can't see them.
I can't vote, but I usually do. Other people see the poll? Good.
Yes.
So yeah, we are using this information to kind of see what people are getting out of the meeting, who's coming to the meetings, and what's working and things that we can change. So your feedback is very helpful in continuing to help the monthly meetings be engaging and useful.
Christina, I'll let you decide when enough people have completed it that we should move on to our last.
I think we can maybe like 15 seconds. Go ahead.
I noticed somebody in the chat saying they're having trouble with the poll. You have to answer all 3 questions for the submit option to light up, and then you can submit it.
Thank you, Kermit. Okay, as you're finishing up the poll, those of you that have a little more energy, you have 3 options. You can go into the break. In a moment, we'll open up the breakout rooms and you can have a little more Q&A with our speakers. The divest and defund breakout to find out more about stopping the money pipeline, and the tar sands breakout to find more about preparing for that environmental impact statement. And if you're a newcomer, you don't need to do anything. Don't join a breakout, at least stay long enough in the main room to meet with Nikki. Do you want to open up the breakouts, Kelly?
I'll stop recording first and then open up the breakout.